Rest of Us podcast, I have Professor Gui Cury from Team Octopus Sandy Springs here today.
Hello, guys. How's it going?
He's waving.
Happy
It
to
is
be here.
our first on-location podcast. I met Gui. Actually, we met in person at the NFC event the first time, right?
Yes,
Did we ever meet
correct.
before that? I don't remember.
We've seen each other at jiu-jitsu tournaments, but we didn't really know.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because even at NFC, I'm like, I swear I've met you before. Or
Yeah,
at least like recognize you because
Yeah,
the community is
yeah.
so small. And you
Yeah.
just, I don't know, you just know everybody at a certain point.
Or you start seeing familiar faces, like I've seen that person before. Yeah.
Yeah, he's coached a lot of women who've beat me in tournaments. So it's a very familiar face. And you've been here in Atlanta since you were 12?
Yeah, since I was 12. So, yeah, like 26 years. Yeah.
26 years.
It's a long time.
And you've never moved like around the country. It's always been
No,
Atlanta?
I was in Atlanta, East Cobb area.
You're
yeah.
now more from Atlanta than you would be
More-
from Brazil.
You know, that's a never ending. It's funny you say that because it's like amongst my Brazilian family, people that are in Brazil, I'm a Americanized Brazilian.
Mm-hmm.
And then with like my American friends, I'm like, I'm a Brazilian guy that's embracing the American culture. So it's like, I'm not American enough for the American people, and I'm not Brazilian enough for the Brazilian people. I'm like the foreigner in both sides.
This
which
is
wild.
relatable because I feel like this is you're not the only person who would feel this. What would make somebody like an American Brazilian? Like if you had to pick a couple things.
Well, liking things like apple pies, barbecue sauce, peanut butter, things like
Yeah.
that. That's like very
Normal American things.
normal. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But like, if I went to Brazil for the holidays and I told them, yeah, I really like things with peanut butter, and for sure, a woman around my mom's age would be like, he's American, more American than Brazil. Of course, he would say that. It's
I
just-
wonder, does anyone really eat peanut butter in Brazil?
Nowadays in 2024 is a little bit more of a normality, and that's like not as foreign anymore. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't, kind of thing. But when I lived there, to the best of my memories go, in the late 90s, that it didn't exist. So we would see peanut butter in the North American movies, and we were just curious, like, I wonder what peanut butter tastes like, because it didn't exist, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't like every kid was going to school with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
No,
the
yeah,
same way.
like, no peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
I have a friend who's from England, and something that he's obsessed with is the American Red Solo Cup. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's like, we don't do those, but every time you watch a movie, they're at a frat house or something, they have a red Solo
Red
Cup.
Solo Cup, yeah,
And for
yeah.
his birthday, he's like, I just want red Solo Cups at my birthday.
Yeah.
And you never think about these things
No.
as being inherently American, but
No, especially depending where in Brazil you're from. Like where my sister lives now up north is very warm year round. They don't really have a winter. Whenever it's rainy and stuff, those are like the colder days. So they don't have any experience with colder weather. So I have one of my nieces visiting now, and like the girl doesn't wear sweatpants or hood. We had to take her shopping. 'Cause, like today's
that poor Brazilian girl's going to freeze in
Yeah.
America.
yeah, like this morning it was in the 50s. She's like, what? I'm not leaving the house. It's
Look, it
freezing.
got me
It's
too, though. I woke up this morning and I looked at the weather forecast and I was like, this is not what I wanted.
Yeah, she's just super unprepared for this, you know? So-
This is me as a high schooler. I went to Russia for a week, and I just remember I was like packing my stuff, and my dad looked at me and he was like, "This is all you're taking?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Rachel, you're going to Russia. Like it snows there. This is." He looked at my mom and she's like, "Oh, I don't know. Like this jacket." He's like, "You're sending her to a foreign country. She can't just, you know." And I was like, "I'm sure they have jackets there."
Yeah.
It was just not ideal.
Yeah.
But you know, a little California girl with her winter jacket
Yeah.
going to a snowy place. It's not the same thing.
Not the same thing, right? It's just different, right? Completely different perspective.
Yeah. Is she liking the area?
Yeah, she's
studying
been here
abroad?
for 3 weeks. She's going to stay with us for a
Oh,
year.
wow. Really new. I didn't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
She's 3 weeks in. She's a junior in high school right now. So that's the idea. She's going to be here, get some experience being outdoors, and she'll go back to Brazil, and she'll be basically finishing what would be high school for us. She'll be in that stage where going into college and stuff and applying and trying to figure out what's next. But her being here, and my sister is a citizen, so she's a citizen. So it just opens up some opportunities. I don't know if it's in her wheelhouse to potentially go to college in North America, or she might want to stay in Brazil. I don't know. But she has the option. She has choices.
Yeah, it's nice to have.
Yeah, and it helps that she had like a year of school here. It looks good, you know.
So, and then also it probably feels more comfortable if she did go to school. She's like, oh, it wouldn't be so scary because you have
Yeah.
at least a little bit of something.
And it's getting good for her English skills. She had English experience just from learning, taking classes, but now she's been having to actually put it to practice. So she's just really getting good at it. in
Yeah,
a
I
short
can't
period of
imagine
time.
having to do high school math in Portuguese as a non. Like, I just can't imagine having to do any high school subject in a different language. Feels like it would be so challenging.
So, to your point, when my parents moved here, I was in the school year in Brazil is different than here. Here, you know, we start school in August. Then you have your winter breaks and whatnot. But school usually ends in May. In Brazil, because the seasons are different, our winter is December and January. I mean, that's our summer break. When it's winter here, it's summer in Brazil.
That's so confusing.
So June and July, summer in North America. That's winter in South America, especially where I grew up in the South. So, you know, we have our school year starts in February usually, and it ends towards the end of November, at the latest the first week of December. So December and January for Brazilians, that's the summer break in school.
Wow.
So yeah.
And I guess like Christmas and all that falls the same.
Yeah. So for Christmas and New Year's and stuff, if life allows it, most Brazilians will go to the beach or something to see the fireworks and Christmas and stuff. We understand that Santa has to go around the world, but Brazilian Santas have like a sleeveless, you know.
That's a little bit more
It's a
comfortable
little
for the
warmer.
environment.
Yeah. Like we was
Decorate the palm trees.
right. We will say how like the reason why Santa's wearing less clothes is because he goes to South America on his way up to North. Then he layers up to go to North America.
And then he just, that's what else is in the bag
Yeah, right.
is his extra coats.
Right.
Because he's ready to go to Russia at the end of it all.
Right. But where I was getting at is that when we moved here from Brazil, I think it was end of June-ish. So I had the month of July, and then middle school started in August here. But in Brazil, I was halfway through sixth grade. So I was going to have to start sixth grade again because they thought it was good to do all 3 years before going to high school.
And you'd already done like half of sixth grade.
Half of sixth grade, yeah.
A 2-month break that you wouldn't have had in Brazil. And
Right.
then, okay, got
Yes.
it.
So the biggest thing was that at the time in Brazil, sixth grade was the first year you had like a foreign language class. And in Brazil, English was the foreign language. You didn't have like a choice, like Spanish or like English is the thing. So I'm like learning. I'm a couple of months into learning the verb to be. Like he is, she is there. Like the first phrase we learned was like the book is on the table. Like that was like a big deal. Like if you could say you understood what that meant, you know, the sky is blue. Like that was like a thing. And that's when we moved here. So I had like super limited skills, but it was like, you know, going to school. When I started middle school here, I didn't understand a lot of the talk, which is to be expected, and you know the schools prepare for this. But math was the one thing I was like, I got this because it was numbers.
Oh,
and numbers are.
Oh, wow. Actually,
There's no misinterpretation, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. So whatever math I was in sixth grade, I felt like I was like, okay, I got this. I know what's going on here. Everything else was like a little bit of a process, you know.
Was it hard? I guess like you didn't like struggle with reading directions and other things because you at least knew enough math to, you're just like good at the numbers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know, but it was like, so kind of a funny story is, so going back to sixth grade in Brazil, the schools that I've been to, it was one or the other. Either you stayed in the same class with your classmates, and then you'd get a different teacher depending on the subject. One teacher would leave, another teacher would come back, so on and so on. Or you'd have to go to a different classroom. So the idea was, if I'm new to a school and I don't know where to go, a no-brainer was like, just follow your classmates because they're going to the classes you're supposed to be in. You guys are in the same boat. So, and that's not necessarily the same in North America. So I remember my first day in sixth grade, I'm in homeroom. I'm sure they gave me a schedule. I didn't know what I was looking at. I didn't understand. So I was just putting things in my folder. But, you know, some people's homeroom and first class are like in the same room. So in my mind, I was like, either they're gonna leave or they're gonna stay. So I'll just kind of judge on that. So when that bell rang, half the people stayed, the other half the people left.
And you're like,
and I
okay,
was
this
like,
was not the plan.
F is going on here. So in doubt, I was like, well, maybe the people that stayed didn't hear the bell, but I heard the bell, and I'm nervous. So I was like, I'll just follow the people that left, and I'll go wherever they're going. And they started going into different rooms. This kid went there, this kid went to the right, other kid went to the left, and I was like,
How does this
I
work?
don't know what's going on. So I would just go into whatever room. That's how I figured it out. And at some point, somebody will come and grab me and be like, you're in the wrong room. This is where you need to go. So after like 3 days in middle school, I had that written down. Like, okay, room, class number 1, I go to that room. Class number 2, I go here. Trial and error at its finest.
It's things like that you don't really think about how it could be structured differently somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like something that you just, I don't know, like assume is a normal thing, and then you go to somewhere else and it's not.
Yeah, and I can only imagine that nowadays, another kid in the same picture, it would be like much better explained per
Yeah.
se, because at the time when I went to that middle school, there weren't that many Brazilians there. There was like 2-3 Brazilians in the entire school, and I didn't have a class with any of them. Versus fast forward in a couple of years to high school, there would be like hallways where I could hear Portuguese up and down the hallways and stuff, and that was just like a normality, you know. So I feel like kids in my situation nowadays would have an easier time.
Because they have at least some friends and they could figure it out.
Yeah,
together.
there's like interpreters. I have friends that I went to school with that are teachers nowadays.
Okay.
So there's like interpreters, there's teachers
Teachers
that
who
can,
speak
yeah,
Portuguese.
yeah. And so that's just like all these things is a lot more. I won't say it's easy, but it's easier than what I experienced in the late 90s.
How did your family land in Atlanta?
So the craziest thing is, so we're from Brazil. We had never been, my parents would never been out of South America.
Oh, wow.
So like a different, outside of South America countries. Like we've been in South America, but not outside of that. But my parents always had a curiosity of like, trying it out. Like, let's try a different country. Let's just get out of our normality. We'll do like a year. Kind of like what my niece is doing now with us, right?
Yeah.
Let's just try it out. And
Wow. Like not even a vacation at Disney World
yeah,
or
like
anything?
let's live somewhere else for like a year, and it'll be like a good experience or terrible, but we don't know if we don't try it. And that was
So
kinda
brave.
Yeah. And that was the thing. So
And you have how many siblings at the time when you
I
were
only
12?
have one older sister.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
she was,
you and older sister and your parents are like, let's go to another country for a year.
that was my parents. Yeah. So they came first, like 3 months. And then later, my sister and I joined. And we were kind of like, well, whatever, you know. But for me, it was a little easier because 11, 12, everything's new and exciting. Let's try. At the time, Brazilian kids would think like, oh, United States, Disneyland. Like,
Yeah.
that's the entire country. The entire country. The entire country, Disneyland, LA, and beaches.
Yeah.
So that's the United States. That's
Maybe a little New York City in
yeah,
there.
New York, like the statue and all that. like but so my mom's older sister, her and her husband, my uncle, that was always their thing. They enjoyed traveling, exploring other countries. That was always their thing. At the time, they had been to the United States several different times, and my aunt was aware that my mom had this curiosity of experiencing living in a different country, somewhere in the United States. They just didn't have like a let's go here or there. They didn't know where to go. But my aunt and uncle, they came to Atlanta for the Olympics in '96. So they came here, and they had never thought about going to Atlanta. They always went to like the touristy spots, and they had a good time. But I remember my aunt coming back from that trip and telling my parents, if you guys ever decide to go to the United States, Atlanta's awesome. You're going to get the full experience of living in North America, but it's not at the time, like it wasn't a touristy area. So it wasn't like Orlando or Florida or somewhere.
LA or something.
LA, somewhere that has like lots of tourists, you know. It was like you get the full experience. If it wasn't for the Olympics, we wouldn't have gone there, but like they really had a good time here. They enjoyed it. They'd come back. But they were like, that's where that would be my suggestion. So my parents just kind of took that as well, let's go there then. Like that seems
And move the whole family.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because I heard that the reason why Buford Highway is the way that it is, and there's so many Asian immigrants, because I think that's something that people don't realize about Atlanta is we have some of the best Asian food. I'm Filipino, but I've had some of the best like Korean barbecue compared to even LA, Sacramento, San Francisco, all these places known for Asian people. We have some really excellent Asian food here, and I heard it was also because of the Olympics. A lot of people came and worked and built the Olympics and then settled out in Buford. So it's so interesting that that's how your family ended up here was because of the Olympics too.
And that's how we came. And I mean, my parents came first again to get settled and stuff. And then my sister and I came. Obviously, me at 11, 12, everything's cool. My sister being like a late teenager, she's not sure about the whole thing. Friends, boyfriend, all that stuff. You know, she wasn't the most excited, but you know, it was fun. It was.
It'd be so rough to be a senior in high school, move countries.
Then your parents are like, "We're leaving the country for like a year." It's like
they couldn't be like wait a year because they probably wanted to bring her for the experience too. I'd imagine.
It was like the age gap because she was 17 to 18, so that would have been the perfect time to do the year because. Assuming things just didn't work out and we hated and we all went back to Brazil, it wouldn't have messed up her academics into pursuing her education in Brazil.
Okay.
Like it would have been okay. She would be along with other kids her age and stuff. She wouldn't have been like behind or anything like that, you know. So, but if we waited till she was 18 and then came here and then another year and then went back at 19 and then she still like that.
Like you'd be out when you would have already graduated.
She would have been behind the ball, you know. So it was. I don't know if my parents thought about that. Like I think they did, but that was like if they were ever gonna go and venture out and try the stuff, that would have been the time to do it, you know.
Yeah. Did she get a driver's license while she was here?
She did, and it's funny because you had to do. She had to do the test 5 times. She failed the test.
I failed it once, so I can't really laugh that much. But to be fair, it's driving in another country, so anyone could make that mistake.
Yes, of course.
How many times did you take your test?
Once.
Oh, gosh. So annoying.
One time I did so for my learner's permit you had to do like the rules and stuff like the computer test. That one I think you can do from 15 to 16 and I basically made my dad take me to the damn thing like I said because he was like whatever we'll go and I was like let's go like I want to do this.
You want the freedom.
Yeah,
your friends are doing it too. I wouldn't have done it, but my friends were all in driver's ed, and I was like, I guess we're supposed to be doing this.
Supposed to be learning this stuff.
Yeah.
And well, I was just thinking that like I understood at the time that it was going to be about a year-ish before I could have like an actual driver's license. So to me, it was like the longer it took to get started, the longer that year was going to. So I was like, let's get this train on the road, bro.
Let's get this train. Let's do it.
Let's get this ball rolling.
Yeah, high school's a different experience with a license and without a license.
Correct.
Because without it, it's you're at your parents and whatever, and then when you have it, you can go meet your friends at the movies. You can go to the mall. You can do all these things, and you have a different level of independence. And when I was 16, we all had jobs. I don't think that's a thing anymore.
No, for sure. No, it's really not.
No one really hires kids anymore.
No, I was actually talking to a friend about that earlier today about like having work when we were younger. And I remember, I think when I was 14 to 15, my parents weren't like, go get a job. But I was intrigued about making some sort of money. Like I wanted to have my own money. And nobody would hire me. Like I used to like roller skate and skateboard. So I'd go to like all these different places trying to get hired. And so many times they would be bringing out their application like, yeah, fill this out. How old are you? Like, I'm 14. And they'd be putting it back down like, oh, well, no.
You gotta be 16 or something.
Yeah. So I got a job for like at the end when I was like a couple of months before I turned 16. I was like 15-ish. And it was like a friend of a friend type of thing. It was like a restaurant. I was going to do like waiting and stuff. But that guy was super nice. His name was Jeremy. And he was like, look, I'm going to hire you, but you can only work like very few hours. Like I get in trouble.
You're still a child.
Yeah.
So.
Like, you're gonna mess me up.
Can't put you through the factory.
No, yeah. But so, like I had I had a job at an early age. And
unlike you, I did not want to get a job. I actually remember the day. It was like the second day of summer vacation. I mean, it felt really like I felt like I finally had my first day or second day that I could sleep in. And I used to get up for like 7 a.m. choir and leave at 6 in the morning and do all that kind of stuff when I was in high school. So it's like Tuesday, my first Tuesday of summer break. And I like get up and my dad's like waking me up, like knocking on my like bedroom door. And he's like, you got to get up. You got to go get a job. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, what are you talking about? So he's like, no. He's like, you're not sitting home all summer.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to go out there. And for me, I have a little bit of social anxiety.
Yeah.
So the idea of walking, and I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you need to go walk into these different places and then ask if they're hiring. Like, say, may I speak to the manager? He walked me through the whole thing. And it was so nerve-wracking to me. And I drove and I would park. I guess I still have this personality. And I sat there and I like really got myself together and then went in. I was like, may I speak to the manager? Are you hiring? How old are you? Oh, we only hire over 18. There's a few places. But I did end up getting a job my first job was like being a saleswoman at David's Bridal and selling bridesmaids dresses.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah.
But I did not want to do it. I remember applying to a Hollywood video and they wouldn't hire me. And then a couple other places. I specifically remember that. And then I landed at the dress shop.
Yeah.
And my friends in high school had a job at Hot Dog on a Stick.
Okay.
In the mall. Yeah. They had like the funny hats and everything.
The funny hats and all, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how I know we're in the same age groups. People don't know about Hollywood Video and Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Those things were popping over the weekends. That was
we just aged ourselves.
You'd meet people there.
What was your Hotmail address?
I still have a Hotmail address.
What was your AOL Instant Messenger?
No, I had Hotmail
still works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it like loads into like Outlook Express or whatever.
But you still have an address that's like whatever the address is at Hotmail. Get out of here. Stop.
My student, specifically my girl students, give me the biggest grief. Well, because they're like, haven't you heard of Gmail or Hotmail? It's like, yes, I have. But my work-related things are through Gmail, and that just gets blown up. If I go a few days without looking at it, it's like hundreds of emails. My Hotmail is kind of like more personal. So if I do like a Flow Grappling subscription or something like that, I'll do it through that one because if I get notifications, I'm most likely going to see it through Hotmail than the Gmail one. Like, I'll forget.
It's so funny because it used to be reversed.
Yeah.
I remember when everyone was like, Gmail filters so well. Gmail is so great for work. And then everybody was on Gmail. And mine, too, is at like 96%. They're like trying to make me buy space on it all the time. Yeah. And then it's all crap. I was like, how did this? There's so much stuff in these other folders that I don't even know how I ended up on that mailing list.
Yeah.
But it used to be reversed where I remember like Hotmail and like your AOL accounts would be spammed. And Gmail was like all organized. Only the important stuff.
Yeah.
So I have the tables have turned.
Yes, completely
over
different.
Over 20 years.
You had the AOL Messenger, the MSN Messenger, and a little before that you had ICQ, which was like...
I wasn't on ICQ, but I was sheltered, so I think I was that generation. I just wasn't allowed to be on it.
Wasn't allowed to,
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things, but I did them because it's like whatever.
I feel like your parents would have been chill though. Your parents, I've met his parents once at his birthday, and they seem like very lenient parents. If I had to,
yes and no. What messed me up was my sister. My sister messed me up because my sister.
Let's just blame it on the older sister.
Yeah, no, it's because she's 6 years older than me, so. When I'm 10, she's 16. When I'm 11, she's 7. So she's in her teen years. And at the time, we're talking about people nowadays don't realize that there's like a different life before social media and stuff. Or cell phones. So when my sister is 16, 17, cell phones are like more of a thing, but not everybody has one. My parents had one, and it was like for emergency only. It was like in between. I'm going to work.
Because you used to have to pay for the minutes, and the text messages, and all of those things.
And the battery didn't last. Like it was like it has to be an emergency, or don't call me on this thing. So if my sister kind of abused their trust because she would tell my parents, "I'm going to be at my friend's house over here. That's where I'm going to be at." And then if they called or went to their friend's house and she's not there, they don't know where she's at. It is just, so that was like her teen years. And then we just kind of hope she came back home. She's safe and sound. And most times she would, and they would be like,
How long did she go missing for? Was this like
hours, like half a day.
Okay.
And they would go like, where are you? We're looking for you. And she would be, this is my sister, she would just be so poker face. She's like, oh, I was at the neighbors. Like, did you go to the neighbor? You didn't? No. I didn't think to tell you. I didn't think it was a big deal. And it's just like they didn't know if that she was being truthful or not. But they were really lenient to her, and she like abused that, and she got away with all these things. So when Guy was 16, 17, I had to get like a dang written approval to go anywhere because they were like, we had such a shitty experience with your sister. You can't go anywhere.
That's so reverse though, because everyone tells me that like as an older sibling, you had all of like the strict parents, and by the time the younger one comes along, they don't care anymore.
No, my sister screwed me over. By the time I was a teenager, we were already living in North America, and I grew up in like apartment neighborhoods, so we're living in buildings. So a lot of my friends, we lived in the same buildings. Not like I had to go into a different street or something. It would just be like a different floor type of thing. I'll be on the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, the 4th floor, this door. Like, it'd be so easy for my parents to go check up on me. So I would tell them, can I go to my friend's house on the top floor? No, you can't go. So, why? And it's like, oh, because we don't know if we're like, no, but you can't go. Like, no, you can't go. It's just like, or like the parent would have to come and confirm, like, yes, your kid is here, whatever. Or as I was like a little older, I would have to call from their landline to my parents. So you're showing the caller ID.
That's also showing your age.
Yeah. Landline and stuff. So it was, like it took a little bit of then I got rebellious for a little while, and then we worked it all out.
What does rebellious teen Guy look like?
Wow. Well, it got
PG
to a
edition.
point. Well, so to my defense, it wasn't that bad, but it was like, because for a little while, I thought my parents were like really strict for no reason, and I wasn't giving them reasons to be strict. So like, I would lie to do simple things like going to a high school football game or something, or like there's things going on at the school.
Like any other parent would approve, so it's not bad, but it's bad because you had to lie about it.
Yeah, but they're being dicks. So I would go like, I'm going to this person's house, but I was going to this. And I did that a few times, and eventually they caught wind of it. And so we had to have the sit-down conversation where my mom and dad are like,
I never trust you anymore.
Well, they wanted to know, why are you lying about doing stupid stuff? And I was like, because you guys suck. That's why. And they were just like, we suck? I was like, yeah, like I have to lie to do what normal people do.
Yeah, Lucas had to lie about having a girlfriend. And we've talked about this too, if we ever had kids someday or raise children, like if we would be that strict. Because he was like, I had to keep it quiet. And it's like, it's normal to date. If you're a 17-year-old boy, it's like normal to have a girlfriend. Right.
Yeah. So to that point, I think that was good because it opened up their eyes, because I was telling them, I'm lying to you guys about dumb things. Like I could be lying and doing something illegal or something bad. I'm lying to do what everybody else does, and it's like, and you guys are being gay about it.
Also showing our age. I feel like he's like modern day Gay would have like a PowerPoint. He would put up a PowerPoint and be like, Lucas is dying. You can't see him on this video, but while he's sitting over here by the soundboard,
because he can relate.
He's bright red. He's like, oh my God, this speaks to me. This is exactly Lucas's childhood. Because Lucas, when he was rebellious, he is like the best kid in a lot of ways. Now that we've had like cousins and other things who've really, like had drug problems, like other things that you would probably categorically say this was worse. Lucas is like, we weren't bad. Like we were never doing anything wrong. Oh, Lucas wants to speak on this now.
The worst thing that I did was my dad had a motorcycle in the garage in the backyard, and we had like an acre, and I would sneak out of the window and push his motorcycle through the woods so I could start it and ride it around, and then bring it back. That's like the worst thing. The worst thing you did. Yeah, I was like, I'm just trying to have fun here instead of enjoying.
Didn't you get caught one time or something? You messed up. I don't remember. I feel like your parents knew that you did this one time, or they heard you, or it got caught or something.
No, that was one time when some girls walked from their homes like 8 miles to my house, near my house, and then they had called because we had cell phones, like text message, and I got a text message, and they were like, "We're out back." Yeah. And I was just like, "What?" And so I just walked outside, and I was out there. I'm like, "What are y'all doing?" And then my parents followed me all the way out there, And then I was in trouble. He's like, you're just inviting girls over to the house.
Yeah.
What are you going to do all night? I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this wasn't my idea.
Wasn't
I'm
planned,
like, this just like, they just texted me. I have no idea.
That's also like another thing that shows the age is like they walked 8 miles. Like but that was normal. Like my sister and I, we walked to things, and there wasn't like, we weren't mad about it. Like we wanted to go somewhere, so we're just gonna walk to the dang thing. And then like my niece or other people now, it's like
She buzzes an Uber.
yeah. Well, if we're talking about let's go to the neighborhood pool, how far is it? It's like what's about 5-10 minute walks. Like oh, I gotta walk. This is 10 minutes. Like, dang, you gotta drive you there. Then you gotta drive.
No one wants to walk at all. Me and Lucas love walking. That's actually how we spend the most. Our favorite quality time together is we'll go on long walks with each other because you can't really just be on your phone when you're walking, like you could be if you're at dinner or other things. So we notice that we talk the most and just like have conversations if we just go on a walk with each other, and it's healthy. I mean, Lucas put on 20 pounds last year, so he's like, we gotta start walking. Happens to the best of us.
It does. I can honestly say, like, during the pandemic, I gained probably the same, 15, 20, because
Everything changed.
everything closed, especially like our gym. We had to close. We try to stay open within the guidelines as long as humanly possible until they're like, either you're closed or you're getting fined. So, like, then we closed. But at the time, my wife was an ICU nurse. So she's like in the peak of like, she's
with
the
everything going on.
patients and all this stuff and COVID, this whole thing. And so because she was an ICU nurse and she was starting to deal with COVID patients, and that was like a thing, we just did it. There was so much unknown. So we didn't know how easy it was to catch COVID at the time as it's all unfolding. So our kids basically stayed with my in-laws and sometimes with my
she was the nurse
parents
and having
because
to
she was
come
a
home.
nurse. It's just coming home, and our biggest concern was getting them sick, right? So we didn't know.
And we didn't know how bad it was for the kids
We didn't
yet.
know, yeah. Like there was just this big unknown cloud. So long story short, she's going to work doing like this 12-hour shifts. I'm home. I'm used to being this active human being with teaching classes and training and stuff. I don't have anything going on. I'm not doing nothing. I don't have to parent the kids. The kids are at the in-laws. So I'm just like watching Netflix. And
then
I'm
you go and you
bored.
pick up
I'm bored.
mixology in your own
And I pick
kitchen.
up mixology and I started like...
I'm like, espresso martinis. We made the best Bloody Marys.
Yes. Then I found like this drive-through liquor store that was like nearby the house. I was driving. I made friends with the guy. We knew each other's families. We had good conversations. He's a good guy. Like to this day, we stay in touch. To this day, we stay
Your
in touch.
COVID drive-through liquor guy.
He calls me his brother when I come up. He's like brother. Like there's a you know like friendship there. There's like roots there. And,
It's also trauma bonding.
trauma bonding, yeah. So like I wasn't doing anything and just walking around the house coming up with random recipes. And I had like at the home I had like this little pirate cup that the kids got from what's the medieval times.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Take the
Yeah.
kids in medieval times had like this little pirate's cold cup.
Yeah.
That
Like
was
the
like-
souvenir cups.
Yeah, that was like my drinking cup. I'd walk by myself around the house. Whenever it was empty, I'd refill it.
We made so many cocktails. We have the cocktail shaker
Yes.
because of COVID. It was so bad. And I don't know if this happened to you, but I didn't gain weight right away because I was so active and I wasn't doing jujitsu back then. I was just doing like a bunch of recreational dance and yoga. But I had like been doing it for 3 years, just like an incredible amount of, probably as much as I do jujitsu, I was doing those two activities. And so the first 7 months of COVID happened and my body didn't change at all. I was like, oh, whatever, because I had so much deep muscle, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was after that, then when I was like trying to get back into my routine and you didn't notice all the muscle actually left.
Yes.
And then you're
yes.
doing the same. I was doing the
Yes.
same like 3-4 days a week. I was doing all the same amount of hours, but
Yeah.
because my body didn't have the same muscle mass on it, it just did not do the same thing. And because we were home drinking all the time, I was like,
Yes.
how am I doing exactly what I did a year ago? Now that, because everything opened so early in Georgia, I was like, how am I doing all the same things and I'm like gaining weight? And then I realized after, I was like, oh, it's because
Yeah.
that 7 months that you did absolutely nothing made a huge difference.
Yeah.
This is like my fear too when I sit out for like I've been out for 3.5 weeks because of my wrist, and I'm like, how much do you atrophy? How much goes away in like 3.5 weeks?
Well, I had to have a come to Jesus with myself because like after like a couple of weeks into that, I was like, okay, put the power cup now. Like, at some point things are gonna like go back to normal, and like you're gonna be relying on the power cup. You're not gonna take your power cup with you. You have to put the power cup down. And it was wild, but
And you had the same gym then too?
Yeah, no, we were.
How long have you guys been open for? Just
7 years in as of September.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
That was like your birthday and an anniversary party then. Yeah.
Correct. We actually opened like the first weekend of September. So like the first, second, I don't remember what day it was, like a Saturday when we had like our soft opening. And because it was like my birthday's on the 9th. So because my birthday was nearby, we did like a little birthday thing and stuff. And I've just been doing that every year since. I was like, well, let's use that as an opportunity to do a get together and things like that. But
it's worth celebrating because I mean, especially being a gym that survived the pandemic.
Yeah, it was
in a close face-to-face contact sport.
Yeah,
I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu then, but I've heard so many people who were doing jiu-jitsu at that time, and they said it was so depressing because it was the thing that they were doing all the time, and then to not do a partner contact sport was so depressing.
And it was like once things, and this is like, we can go back like maybe a few weeks before things started opening back up again. So there was like underground training.
Yeah.
Right?
Everyone,
underground open mats.
Yeah.
For the
with your
jiu-jitsu
friends.
people. Yeah. So we was like very organized. Well, you've been to our gym, so you know that like our jiu-jitsu room has this garage door that's see-through. And
it's
like,
a really cool facility. Like the stairs that go down,
Yeah.
you guys got the mural.
Yeah.
And then also I really like that your jiu-jitsu area is in a different room, so it's not too loud.
Yeah,
Because
it's
sometimes like if you
far
have
from
all
the
of
noise.
the stuff,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It still works. It's just sometimes
Right.
hard to hear classes when they're not separated.
No, correct. And that was the whole thing. Like we took that into account. We were putting things together, and we were trying to like figure out the order of like where's this room, that room. And I was like, I want my room.
Huge locker rooms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that you can actually change.
That you could change with actual lockers that hold gi
Right,
bags.
yeah,
Because like sometimes
correct.
lockers will be way too small, and it's
Yeah.
like if you're showering and bringing the shower bag
Yeah.
and the towel, like it all fits in the locker.
It's funny because when I had this meeting with one of my partners about like, we're like, okay, so we're gonna build this gym, and they wanted to know my input. Like you've been training, you've been a competitor, and this is like younger Guy, and they're like, what are things you can bring to the table that you think would be beneficial for us to have the other gyms don't have? And I was like, locker rooms. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I was like, it would be cool to be able to change your clothes and not by the urinal or by the stalls or where everybody else is using the restroom or showering, and you're not like right there with them, like an actual space where you can change your clothes.
You're making it sound like it's so
Lockers and
silly,
things
but
like that.
it's true to be able to, like so many places are like,
Yes.
you're changing next to your urinal,
Yeah.
and, like standing on your like little flip
100%.
flops.
Yeah, I know. You're trying to change and somebody's using their in flush, and you're like, oh, hi, I'm just changing. I'm just changing.
And as a
Or
long-term thing,
showering.
I think as a gym grows, I've noticed, I've just been doing jiu-jitsu for 2.5 years. So my opinion doesn't really matter. But I will say, I think it's easier to open up noon and morning classes where people have to come from work, go back to work, or go to the gym, train, go to work when there's showers and locker
Correct,
rooms, and you can
correct,
bring
yeah.
all of your crap and properly get ready for work and then go
Correct, yeah.
off.
And that was kind of like some of the perspective I brought into it. It was like, these are things that
Genius.
like being able
Love
to
it.
just change and shower and things, but you're not like right on top of the other person that's
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing, you know? I was like, we don't have to have like a bunch of shower heads, but maybe like 2, 3. And then, but there's like ample space, mirrors, things like that. Cause guys do use hair dryer and stuff
Yeah.
like that too, you know? I don't, but most
But that's like
guys
the
do.
stuff that will separate them from like, oh, can I realistically add this to my
Yeah.
lifestyle where I'm training and then going to work?
Correct.
Or because sometimes it is, because I was actually trying to do training after I was working out in the morning because the place that I was going to, my strength and conditioning, and we're actually leaving it just because I'm like, it doesn't make sense to drive there
Right.
and then hit the traffic on the way back. Once
Yeah.
you go there, if you don't shower there and you drive back, you drive up your parking garage, you go in, you shower, and then you go back down, just that much time.
It's very time consuming.
It doesn't make any sense. And it's like it's what separates you from being able to get to work and do all the things.
So we started adding more like strength and conditioning classes. Like we have it like throughout the week now, but we also offer that like, you can shower. And we actually have had a lot of members sign up, regardless why they're there for in the morning, whether they're doing their own thing, they're taking a class or doing jiu-jitsu. But it's just like the availability of being able to like use a locker room and they don't have to wait and they can shower and they can change. There's stations that they can hang their stuff in.
Yeah.
We have a dry sauna. They can go sit in the sauna and
it's
things
funny
like that. And it's just,
too, because like the average hot yoga place has showers and they wouldn't think of making like a hot yoga place without them. And then it's funny because the sport that gives you staff, so many places it's just like it doesn't have. And I mean, sometimes it's so hard to put a gym into a place that like might not. Shockingly, showers I think in commercial buildings are hard to add, but it's just like such a special thing to be able to have, and strength and conditioning. And I think your facility has a ring. I can't remember. I didn't really go to that side.
It has a ring. Yeah,
it has a ring. Yeah. It's a really cool location. I've only been once, but it's kind of like in a basement, lower level. I want to say. Yeah. It's way bigger on the inside than you would ever think from the outside.
It's
but
like
it's
a
cool.
rectangular shape.
Yeah, and it's just the way that it's separated. Like you walk in, you hit the front desk to the right, jiu-jitsu things to the left, like the other stuff, and like the sound. Sure. What a cool spot. How did you guys find that location back then?
So this goes back to our partner, Abraham Gray. And this is like before I was involved with him, but he had in mind that he would like to open or have a gym somewhere in Sandy Springs. And he really liked that specific location. So to your point, the reason why it's underground is there was nothing there. It was like basically like an abandoned basement. So when you walk into our main entrance, you got to go down this flight of stairs, and the stairs are kind of awkward because they're like shorter steps, longer steps.
It doesn't feel like it's a to-code staircase, but it looks oddly though. It looks like a staircase that you would see in like a tourist destination to take pictures at. Yeah. Like it's a really cool staircase. It's just not normal.
So because it was like in this, I believe they used to use it as like some sort of storage. I want to say boats and things like that. Because those stairs weren't there.
It had the loading bay, so that kind of makes sense.
It was basically just a downhill ramp, and the front entrance was like a garage door.
Oh, okay.
So you could get in and out through that ramp, and that was the only access. And then where the jiu-jitsu room is, there's another garage door type of thing there. But it was like, you'd imagine just like an old basement, no lights, not like a couple of light bulbs, but it was just very like dark and inefficient and things like that. And it was, it was very, Abraham had this vision, and like to his credit, I remember when I met him there, he was like, I was walking down that ramp where the main entrance is now, and it had been raining for a few days, so it was slippery, so I had my hand on the side of one of the walls.
Try not to slip to your death.
Fall,
Final destination.
And crash. And as I'm like struggling to make down the path, Abraham's like, this is gonna be our grand entrance, and I was like, what?
But if you saw it now, what a vision! Because there's a really cool mural. There's like an octopus mural on the way down. It looks really cool.
Yeah. So it was like, to his credit again, he had all this vision, and I just wasn't seeing it at the moment because I was like, this sucks. Like, he found like the worst place. He was like, we'll have octopuses here. This will be the main entrance. We'll have like this marble white desk when you walk in. And it was going to be the nicest high-end gym in all of Sandy Springs. And it's like, there's no light bulbs in there. I'm like, we're using our
flashlight. And he's like, it's going to be, you're looking at a tiny little
he's like giving me a
light.
tour. And I was like, I don't know, bro. Like, I was like, is this the only place that's available? Like, I was like concerned.
That's the other thing though, for so much square footage. If you're not from Atlanta and listening, out of my up to 200 listeners, I'm like, if you are not in Sandy Springs, it is a very expensive area. Like it's near a bunch of hospitals. It's close to Buckhead. It's close to Mount Perron. Like your customer base are people who are like used to like the apartments that they build in this part of town. It's like they make sure they have like the dry cleaning locker so you can like have your stuff for work because they're catering to the same type of people who would stay in a boutique hotel for 6 months.
Correct.
So it's an incredible amount of space for the location that you're in. Great parking. That's something that
Correct,
stresses me
yeah.
out. Like easy to get to. So
We actually offer a service that too. Like we can wash your gear if you want us to. Like we could have a washer and dryer. We can do that.
this is
if you,
that's
if needed, we don't have to do it. There's a small convenience fee, but we can do it.
that's the
It's possible.
places in New York have that,
Yeah,
and because again, it's like such a business district, it makes sense that you have
Yeah.
that. So that's a really
Yeah.
look at you guys.
Yeah, we've run out towels because people forget their towel. They want to take a shower, but they don't have a towel. It's just like we have towels.
Yeah. You know what? Renting a towel is cheaper
Yeah.
than staff. Let me
Yes,
tell you.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually, when I traveled to New York and got staff for the first time, I actually forgot my towel, and I was sitting there like wiping myself with like my shirt that was clean, but also not. And then I got staff anyway.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh. The shirt that probably sat with me on a chair in the subway.
Yeah.
Like that's probably how that happened.
That's how it happened. Right?
Yeah, but that's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, we do. We offer all these things, but it's kind of like what you're saying with staff and all during the pandemic. So with the underground trainings and things like that, my friends, and I have these friends that I grew up with that I call them my non-gym martial arts friends because I grew up with them. We're super close, but they're not in like our line of work per se, right?
yeah.
They don't do jiu-jitsu and stuff. So they were just like in
Do they train
shock.
like casually or
No, like some
Okay.
of these people, they're like they don't know what a jiu-jitsu, but they're just like in shock when I was doing this underground things. Like you're gonna get COVID, you're gonna die,
You're gonna be the
you're
one.
gonna do all these things.
There was
And it
so
was-
much information
yeah.
that was different.
and
back
it
in
was
the
just
day.
like at the time with the little information we had, it was like, and these were not small training sizes. Now there was like 4 people. There were like 20, just
Yeah.
under 30 people in this room during things were closed down, and nobody got anything. Nobody was sick and things like that. And it wasn't to say that COVID wasn't real, but when like my parents and these people would ask me, well, how is that possible? You guys are like sweating on each other and stuff. And I would always tell them like, well, let me ask you this. How often were you concerned about things like ringworm or staph infection? How often did that cross your mind? Like on
Yeah.
a regular basis? And it was like, never, hardly ever. Okay, cool. Jiu-jitsu people, that's like a normality.
Yeah,
So,
you're
like,
used to like okay,
yeah.
you're gonna get the flu or something.
Yeah.
Like
so
during
the
flu
whole
season.
like hygiene, wash your hands, wash your face, shower, do this, do that. It wasn't like that was a normality for jiu-jitsu people the entire time.
Yeah.
Before COVID ever existed, that was like a bunch of germaphobes
Yeah.
that sweat on each other. Like
Yeah, you weren't. You're
jiu-jitsu
it's
people were
probably
completely different.
Yeah, if you were one of the big germaphobes that was
Yeah.
like, I don't know, wearing gloves to the grocery
Yeah,
store, it's
yeah.
not the sport for you, probably.
Yeah.
I think. Like I definitely did not even get COVID until I want to say like almost a year until after they opened up again. Maybe it was like 9 months or something, but it was significantly after all the rules went like back, and then I finally got it. But during everything and even the rules, and then we live in a apartment complex. A bunch of our friends lived in our same apartment complex, so it wasn't like super insular, and it was like yeah, it was such a different time. I remember how were you in Brazil during 9/11 or in America?
No, I was already here.
You're already here?
I was I think I was a freshman in high school.
Was that okay? So you were in high school.
Yeah.
Do you remember, was that weird?
Yeah, it was,
I didn't know what the Twin Towers was when I was like 11 or 12 when it
yeah,
happened.
you know
so
what was weird about it is that like at that time, like the day of 9/11, I lived at the time we were living in Kennesaw, Georgia. So we lived, I think, a few miles from the school that I went to, North Cobb High School, and it was like that particular morning I missed the bus, right? Like I missed the school. I could walk to school. It would be like a 20 to 30 minute walk to school, but like I didn't want to walk. I could just take the bus. But I missed the bus that morning. I go to the bus stop. Everybody laughed. I'm like, damn, I missed the damn bus. So like,
it's like the second day of school. Or something
right.
like that.
So it's like Brazilian kids and Hispanic. We're not gonna go wake our parents up. Like, hey, can you take me to? That's the last thing you're gonna do.
Yeah.
You're gonna get slashed. You're gonna get slashed. So
You didn't do what you were
just-
supposed to do.
No,
and
yeah,
now you
like,
woke me
now-
up too.
Yeah, so I would just walk my way to school. So it was like those 30 minutes, by the time I got to school, things were already happening, right? So
Yeah.
it was like a thing. And basically what almost I think every documentary says, it was like the first hour, it was like accident. We just didn't know enough. Like, wow, a plane landed. And everybody's kind of like, well, dude, how tall are you going to make this building, right? Like a plane crashed to it. Maybe that's the thing. So it was still kind of interpreted as like maybe somehow, we didn't know how big the plane was and stuff, but it was just like how wild that a plane crashed into a building. And then once the second plane hit the second tower, that's when even the like 16, 17-year-olds like, okay, that's strange. That's not an accident. That's,
Yeah, I just remember like they changed like TV for I want to say like a week when you were a kid. They even turned off all the kids stuff, and then I was like, okay, wait, what happened? Yeah. Because I didn't really understand it. I didn't know my geography enough to know what the Twin Towers was.
Yeah. No, I was a freshman in high school. I didn't know much about what the purpose of the World Trade Center was. I mean, I knew that there were like the two buildings in New York, but I was at a stage in my life where I was starting to learn what the purpose of things were.
Yeah.
Like why they exist, right? And things like that.
You realize what historic buildings are.
Yeah.
Important things
yeah,
are.
like they're not just tall buildings, they have a purpose.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if they had hit, as a child, if they had hit Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, I would have definitely known what that was.
Yeah.
But World Trade Center was like not on my radar as a child at all.
And it just went back to like watching North American movies growing up. The Twin Towers were always such a thing, you know. Like I mean, going back, just going back to like Crocodile Dundee, like those movies, like the Twin Towers, like that's it.
What American stuff did you watch when you were a kid?
So when we moved here from Brazil, and I had like super limited English skills, right? Again, like we're talking about the verb to be, like all these things, and just basically. But I didn't know any slang, which is the thing, right? Like we learned by the book stuff, like how are you? Like, I'm good.
How are you doing today?
Yeah.
Sir.
Not like what's up? Like I didn't know that meant like what?
Qual é a boa?
Yeah, boy. So at the time, this is when like the antennas are still a thing. So we have like TVs, and we have like a few channels that are available. So what helped me the most, and I would watch it purposely to help me with street talk, were like the sitcoms, specifically Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I learned a lot with Will Smith, and Family Matters with Steve Urkel. Yeah, I learned a lot like with those two.
And culture too, like probably culture, American suburb culture.
Yeah, even if I didn't understand exactly what they were saying, but it was like if Will Smith would say, "What's up?" somebody, and the other guy would go, "Not much." So in my mind, I was like, okay, so when they say this, you say that. Yeah. That's the response. Okay, that's how it works.
Whether you knew what it meant or not, you're like, it doesn't matter.
That's how it works.
Because you can answer to like what is the good or whatever. You can say Noah say, right? Which means I don't know. But that means like not much is just
no say.
Yeah,
right.
no say. Yeah.
Right.
So interesting that actually my pen pal when I was in high school, she's a French pen pal. We're actually still friends on Instagram to this day, like 20 years later. She learned English watching Friends.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I don't feel like some other cultures have the same kind of sitcoms that we do. So you don't have the comedy or that structure.
Right.
And so, I mean, like, one of my things that I really like to do is, this is cheesy, but I love Spanish telenovelas.
Yeah.
From Spain. And so I'll watch those, and they're cheesy, and there's a certain amount of it that makes it easy to understand. Because if I watch, everyone's like, oh, watch, I don't remember what it's called, but Money Heist.
Money Heist. I watched that. That's a good show.
It's a good show. Yeah. It's just way, like, I would never be able to understand that Spanish because it's a lot more complicated.
It's very fast.
It's very fast. Yeah, it's fast paced. And then their subject matter has all these verbs and I feel like it has all this vocabulary that I wouldn't use in normal real life because it's just so much more intense because of what they're doing. Versus like some cheesy, I don't know, telenovela where everything's simple and, over exaggerated.
You know, it's funny that I didn't know you're originally from the Philippines.
Oh.
But it's like, so you're familiar with Alex Enriquez?
Yes.
From Atos. Alex.
Is Filipino.
Yeah. So the last roommate, this is like a really good friend of mine. Her older brother, Kevin, he was my roommate.
Okay.
We're like really good friends. Like I've watched Alex grow up. Like I remember when Alex.
I've heard this from other people too at Atos because she, from like 12 years old or something.
Yeah,
was doing
yeah.
training.
I have pictures with Alex when she was a green belt. It was just like
that's so
wild,
crazy.
Yeah.
But, she went to the Philippines, and I would happen to be with my mom at the time, and my mom was like, "God, I just like really miss mangoes. Like I miss there's very few things she misses from home, especially. But she's like, I can't buy Filipino mangoes anywhere because it's not just a mango. She's like, it's because our mangoes come from like Mexico or somewhere else. She's like, the Philippine mango is specific. And when Alex was in the Philippines, she was posting all this stuff of mangoes, and I was like showing my mom, and she's like, God, I miss that. And I texted her, or I DM'd her. I was like, I need more mango content because I'm with my mother right now, and that's like the thing she misses about the Philippines.
Was like I remember, so his name is Kevin, Alex's older brother, and that was like his superpower was that he was never hungover. It didn't matter how hard in the paint he went. The next day he was fine. Didn't matter if
does this still hold true to this day at this age?
I don't know. Now he's older like me. He's got kids and stuff, and maybe things are different.
Your superpowers seep away.
But in his prime, like that boy could do whatever. He could mix all of the things. He could break all of the rules. And with a few hours of sleep, he was perfectly fine the next day. And I just was always in awe. I was like, dang, like you just get away with the world.
Was he like chugging like Gatorade at night or something?
No, coconut water here and there.
Okay, see, that might be it. Because I had a friend who got hammered in college. And he was a cross-country runner, like for the school on a full scholarship. And I was like, how do you go and run and not puke the next day? Because I'm feeling like I need a burger in the morning, like already feeling like crap. And he said, oh, the secret is, he's like, drink a whole Gatorade, drink a water. You're going to have to get up in the middle of the night and pee, but you're going to be solid. Yeah. And he would go and run races the next day. And sure enough, like when I'm really drunk, I looked at Lucas and I'm like, you got to get me some electrolytes.
Yeah.
I know how this works now.
So I have all these fond memories of like Kevin just being like, just drinking everybody under the table, passed out. My wife and I, Kendall, used to babysit him or like get him home and stuff. He was like our kid, adult kid. And then like he was admit this, but then he'd be fine within a few hours later. We just never understood that. And I remember my parents at one point were like, "Oh, the boy's from the Philippines. He grew up eating soup. That's why his." And I would go like, and I remember being like, "Yeah, wait, is that they eat soup there? Is that racist? No,
is that how it works?
Like I'm not sure here. I don't agree to this."
Did
he ever train too or no?
Yeah, no, he was at the time like on our younger days. So he did jiu-jitsu. He competed. He did a few. He did Alex actually did this tournament too. There was the first version of submission only tournaments in Atlanta.
Okay.
It was a tournament called Kakuto. And they were run by the guy that owns a gym called Striker Fight Center, which is where 10th Planet Atlanta is held out of.
In like Woodstock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they ran the first time. And it was basically followed. This is when EBI was starting to like pick up momentum and people were watching Eddie Bravo's Invitational. It was the same thing.
It was like a new style.
It was like the new thing.
Yeah.
This is like in 2013. And so they brought that and started that in Atlanta. And so it was cool because they would have it in like all of the belts, even though it was like, and it was like optional if you wanted to wear the gi. They didn't have like gi or no gi divisions, but all submissions were legal, right? So
like
if
you can wear a gi and get heel hooked in a gi.
It's your problem.
It's your problem.
You chose to wear the damn gi. Like,
yeah.
We didn't have, but you could do.
You could give them grips while
but you could play lapel guards and stuff. Like
yeah.
They couldn't argue about getting lassoed up or something. Like that was the thing. So it was pretty like wear it at your own risk type of thing. So.
But would your opponent have to wear the same thing? Or
no. They could wear without. So
why would you wear that? I guess if you were like if you're a lapel player and you're playing with your own lapels, I see. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we would have matches where like one of the guys.
Wild.
So the very first ever tournament that was submission only in Atlanta, that held by these guys, I was in it, and it was like, and the way they did it because jiu-jitsu was still kind of growing, so people wouldn't go or spend money to watch a jiu-jitsu tournament. So what they did, it was pretty genius. What Byron did was he made like a fight card. And it was basically, he brought in a lot of MMA guys that had jiu-jitsu background. So it looked like a MMA event. So it was
to get people to watch it.
To get people to come. Yeah. Because people are like, oh, I'd watch these guys all the time. And in that, majority were MMA guys. And then you have like 3 or 4 guys who are like purely jiu-jitsu guys. But nobody came to watch the jiu-jitsu guys. They came to watch the MMA guy because they had a bigger name. But again, we're talking about 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was
which is like right before you were telling me about NFC too. Yeah. Like NFC's history was a little bit like that.
Right. So it was like people came and I participated in that event. and it was like all submissions are legal, and it was like an open weight class. It was like 180. It was like 180 pounds and up, or 180 and under,
Wow.
and sink or swim. Like that's just how it works. So I was in the 80 and under.
Do they still do those?
No, they did a few, and they were pretty successful. We would hope that they come back eventually one day. Shout out to Byron. Hopefully they'll make that happen again. But it was really cool. But
The gi no gi stuff is
yeah,
crazy.
but it was like so Alex would do those, and it was cool because they could do it in like the levels of your belt, right? Whether you were a gi or not, it was like 6-minute matches. There's no points. You can only win by submission. If there are no submission, then that's when like EBI, they followed EBI. Like the very first event, EBI was still kind of getting the wheels turning. So there was no overtime rules because that didn't exist yet. So it was just like, so they just kind of went off your record. So like if all three of us are in the same division, we're all going to have 3 matches, and they're going to pick the 2 people that had the best overall record on those 3 matches, and you guys are in the final.
What happens if, I mean, since there's no points and no advantages, what would happen there with no
It's
overtime?
a draw. It's a draw.
Oh, okay. So there's just like no
Yeah.
winner and loser. Okay.
It's a draw. So like if you guys compete with each other and it's a draw, and then like you compete with me and you submit me, so it's like, okay, you have 1 win and a draw, and then you go into your 3rd match, and then either you're gonna have a win or another draw. And that was kind of the same for everybody. So they would pick the 2 people that had the best records overall, and then you made it to the final. So like for me, in that particular event, I submitted my first guy, my second guy, neither one of us submitted each other, so that was a draw. So it was like 1 win, 1 draw. So I had 1 more match. And quite a few guys had like a similar thing. Some of the guys had like lost one and won the next 2. So they needed a win. So it was like I had to win the 3rd match, and there was like the time was of essence. So if I had like a quick submission, I was pretty guaranteed to be in the final, right?
Yeah.
If I had a fast win,
Because
because
it
some
would
of
be the
those
better of the
guys, some of the guys, aside from having a draw, they had a loss on the first match. So
Okay.
that would put me ahead of the other guys. So I remember I went with this guy, and he was like an Asian guy, and he was like a really good MMA dude, really good MMA grappler, but he was lighter than me. And I remember like when the refs, and I wasn't sure, you weren't sure who you're competing with, and they're like, you're going with that guy. And he's just like, so you just go. And once I figured out that he was like a grappler, but he was like a lighter guy than me, and like we looked at each other, and I was basically like, sorry, dude. Like, I need this win. And it's like I make it to the final. So like I was able to pull off like just a really fast triangle armbar win, and then I got it to the final, and it was just this whole thing. But Alex and Kevin, like and her brother, like they did all of these tournaments.
Well, even today, like Alex does like combat jujitsu. She's doing some world grappling.
She was in
thing
Kazakhstan just now.
today.
Yeah, she won.
So
Yeah,
inspirational.
She's doing good.
Yeah.
She's kicking butt.
Yeah. Well, Lucas gave me the signal that we've hit our 1 hour.
Okay.
So where can everyone find you? What's your Instagram or anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, you guys can find me on Instagram at Mataleão155, which is my weight class. Most people don't know what Mataleão means, and it's the Portuguese word for rear naked choke.
Oh, I did not know that till now.
It translates to the lion killer. If you were going to kill a lion, that's how you do it. You hop on his back and choke him.
I like that.
That's the only way to do it.
And then he's also the professor at Team Octopus.
Team Octopus Sandy Springs. So come check us out. And I'll also be defending my professional MMA belt on the NFC December 13th, live at the Battery by Truist Park.
Here in Atlanta.
Here in Atlanta.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you.